Welcome back to episode 2 of On the Inside. I'm Tom Mitchell, joined again by Captain of Carlton, Paddy Cripps, and Captain of Brisbane, Lachie Neale. Boys, brought to you by Gatorade again this show. We loved last week. Good to go again. Loch, how'd you go last night? Let's start with you. A great win over Port Adelaide.
Yeah, it was. It was a good win. I feel like teams are, maybe fans are underestimating Port a bit. They've been playing some pretty good footy the last month, and we knew that it was going to be a tough challenge. They were sort of fighting for finals, and if they had have got over us, they would have given themselves a really good chance. So we knew that they were going to bring the heat, and early on they were on, and we managed to wrestle back momentum in that first quarter, and I think we ended up kicking 50 points, which was the most we've kicked in a quarter for a while. So that set the game up for us, and from there it was a pretty even battle. I think they probably actually beat us on the scoreboard after that, even though they had 2 or 3 injuries, some pretty big ones. But I thought our boys were just mature in the performance to get the 4 points. And as you guys know, it's sometimes you just got to grind those wins out and get the job done, which we did. And Zach Bailey probably won it for us, 26-5. So you might have to put some work into him, Crippa.
Might get Chin Cotter in the side, mate. That's a huge game, eh? You don't get much bigger games than that, do you? That's massive.
Oh, nah, he was so good. He was just linking up through the middle of the ground, and no one could catch him, and just getting forward and finishing off his work. He's such a good kick for goal. I think it's an underrated skill, and Bales is probably the best in our team at it, like finishing on the run. He hardly misses. So he had a day out, the big fella.
I still remember that goal he kicked at the start of 23 grand final. I reckon that's one of the best goals I've seen in a big game.
Yeah,
that was huge. Not many players do that stuff.
He kicked 2 of them. Yeah, they were insane goals.
Sick goal.
Tommy, how do you feel, mate? Obviously, a big layoff with the injury. I'm sure there've been a lot of emotions throughout the week, but how'd you feel getting back out there and pack G?
Mate, it was pretty cool. Insane crowd. Obviously, 75,000. We always know Carlton Collingwood. It's going to be a massive crowd, and it was just so good being out there again. It was. You really realise how much you miss it when you're back out there again. And after that layoff, I loved every minute. So, it was a good win. But again, not getting too ahead of myself. It was one game. There's still a lot of footy to be played. But I guess at times, you boys would know as well, you need to smell the roses and enjoy the good times because, footy's a tough game. As we know, there's ups and downs. So I think I've got better at that in recent years, is enjoying the good times when they come and not being so regimented and moving on to the next thing. But I think having a side on knowing that that's one good game, move on to the next phase is important. But it's that fine balance, isn't it? How do you boys find that?
Yeah, I think you got to stop and smell the roses, like you said. I reckon that's something that as you get older, you learn to do a bit more, even after grinding out wins that against teams I suppose you're expected to beat. Sometimes it can be like a little bit flat if you haven't played at your very best, like as a team. So just trying to enjoy those moments because wins are hard to get in AFL footy. So I reckon that's something that I've certainly gotten better at. Did you notice much of a difference from your last game, Tommy, a couple of years ago to now? Was there much of a difference in game style, speed, or anything like that?
I reckon it was pretty similar. It felt pretty similar. I think, obviously, playing our system is pretty much the same as it's been since I've been at Collingwood. We've had a few refinements, but now the game felt pretty similar. I think one thing I've tried to do as best as possible is just stay fit and ready for when the time did come. So I guess the jump didn't feel massive, even though there is a stark difference between VFL and AFL, but just tried to stay ready, and probably playing a number of games in the VFL did help just to come in and feel absolutely ready.
Yeah, I did notice you're pretty fit. I reckon the last 12 months has been a fair few shirtless Insta posts from the big magnetos. Get
Are
nice
you saying I was in a good paddock board for that?
I was going to ask you because I reckon it's good for everyone at home listening, especially young athletes. Like you probably reach the pinnacle, obviously individually and as a team. Like where does your mind go? Like with a big layout, like, I'm guessing there's like a bit of doubt, a bit of fear at some sort of stages. Like how'd you deal with all that stuff?
Yeah, I spoke to a few people after the game about returning to play and things like that. And I reckon there was I had one period of doubt when I had another setback and I was going to miss another 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. But in the back of my mind, and you guys would be the same, you have to have self-belief in this industry because everyone wants to tear you down, at any opportunity really if things aren't going your way. Paddy, you're probably experiencing a bit of that now. So you have to have a lot of self-belief. But the biggest learning I learned about myself through this time was how far can you actually take your level of sacrifice and how bad do you really want it? I think I've always been quite dedicated, but when you're in a position where you're really under pressure, you have to really dig to another level to find, okay, where's another 5-10% I could find with, say, diet, for example, and things like that, which I think you guys both do naturally, and that's why you're both superstars of the game. And Paddy, you particularly with your diet, probably learnt quite a bit from you, just chatting and picking your brain on certain things. But even with the way you prepare, you always seem to be looking for the next thing, even though you've probably hit the peak of your powers in footy as well. You're always looking for that 5%, 10% every year, every month of the year, really.
Yeah, I think you guys would all be the same, but you're just trying to level up. Like you're trying to see how far you can push yourself and reach your sort of potential. So it's always, I like breaking it down, like your body, your craft, your mind. They're the three things you can train. And like, you can go down some serious rabbit holes in all three of them. Like I'm sure we'll all be the same. Like, some things you do, sometimes can be on the obsessive part, but there's nothing more rewarding, that when you dedicate your time to a certain thing and you get results, like it's, that's where the enjoyment comes from. So, diet's one. Your body's obviously a massive tool, and even watching you the other night, Tommy, you can see you're lean. Like that. That's one of the things that's probably the hardest to do, I reckon, when you have time off is stay motivated to keep yourself in best shape possible. So when you come back, you have impact. So it was good to see you back out there, mate.
Just laid off the barbecue shapes, mate. That's the biggest change. Locke, what about you as well? I wanted to ask you, so coming back on the weekend, I noticed playing a night game, you don't really play a lot of night games in the VFL. We actually had a game that was 10 a.m, so it reminded me of junior footy days. But what's your preference of time to play? Are you a night guy? Do you like day games? Wet, dry? What's your ideal game time? Where and when?
I probably don't really care in terms of when the game's played. I think I like night games just because I love game day and just being able to chill out and sort of prepare for the game. So having a night game, I get more of that sort of buzz before a game. So in a day game, it sort of happens pretty quick, especially when you travel, sort of up, go for a walk, bit of a stretch, and you're sort of into it. Whereas I like to sort of build into the day. So that's probably why I prefer night games, just because I like game day and sort of the buzz that comes with it, and knowing that you're about to go out and play a game of AFL footy and just sort of soak that up. So I feel like I like the night games atmosphere as well. It's probably a little bit better, I reckon, until you hit the big games like grand finals, different. But I'll probably prefer night games for those reasons.
Yeah, mine. I enjoy day games more. Like I actually struggled with night games early in my career. Just go from under 18s footy or juniors where you're mopping the dew off at 9 a.m, 10 a.m, and with our Colts footy, which is the equivalent of TAC Cup in Vic, we were playing at 9 o'clock most Saturday mornings. So you go from that, and then even the footy, like when you watch the footy in WA, it's 2 to 3 hours behind. So I just couldn't get over when I started playing in Vic, playing at the G on say Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. And some games start at 7:50. Like I just couldn't get my head around that. So it took me a fair bit of time to actually work out my routine for night games. But I love day games. I'm a bit the opposite. I love just getting up, getting into it. Playing. I'd prefer like a 3:20. I love that time slot. And it gives you a chance to sort of have a feed with either family or the mates or the boys after a game. And, if you want to go out and do something post-game, you can, or you can just, get to sleep a bit earlier. So I've always enjoyed day games. But in saying that, I reckon the older I've got, the more I've sort of started to like night games for exactly what Lachie said, where you sort of build into the day, you sort of relax, and then, you can soak in the bright lights and the crowd, which is always good fun. What about yourself, mate?
I was just putting 2 and 2 together there. I reckon you've had a few 3-vote games at 3:20, so look out any team that plays Crippa at 3:20. I'm probably I like day games. I think I like the idea of just getting up and getting into the day. We normally obviously arrive at the Oval around 2 hours early, so I feel like you just get up and into it, and it's quite similar to preparing to train, really. So that would be my preference, but at the same time, you're happy to play at any time slot. I think Locke was spot on. Like I had another one that just came to mind as well. Obviously, probably the cleanest player in the AFL you are. Do you prefer playing when it's dry? or do you like playing when it's wet because that levels you up even further? Because as a ball handling type player myself, everyone always mentions, oh, you must love playing the wet, and I do, but I still prefer it when it's dry because you can still be that bit cleaner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd rather it be dry, I reckon, especially if you're getting a bit of attention. It's pretty hard with someone sort of all over you in the wet. It makes it like twice as hard, I reckon, than if you're getting tagged and it's dry, just because the ball sort of sticks to your hands a little bit more in that dry weather. So if it's wet, raining, and you got someone on you, I reckon it's pretty tough. But yeah, I don't mind. I reckon I was better at wet games earlier in my career for some reason, and lately we probably haven't had too many in Queensland, so maybe that's why. But it's always a little bit slippery up here, so we're used to training in those conditions. So I don't mind it if it's a bit dewy and slippery, but the sort of real heavy rain games, yeah, I don't like them as much. I'd rather it be dry, like you said.
That probably leads us to the discussion as well, boys, around footy boots and obviously metal studs. I'm not sure if you guys got the message that came out during the week, but we on our players app got sent out a message that if you get caught wearing metals, you're getting a pretty hefty fine. What do you guys do with footwear when it is wet? Obviously, you wear your molds, but do you have a plan with different venues, surfaces, when you travel? How many pairs do you take? What's your plan with footwear?
I always find this one interesting with the metals because I feel like we're the only code that plays on like a soft surface that's not allowed to wear metal studs. Like rugby, soccer, both allowed to wear metals. I think it came in, I think it might have been in the hub 2020 or 21 when I think Quainer got that big gash up his shin. I like what people don't understand. The molds are actually the ones that cut you up more than the metals because like you walk on concrete so much, so they actually get pretty sharp, the bits of plastic. So I actually reckon the molds are what cut you more. So I wish we could still wear metals, like more for those wet games, just the change of direction, especially when you're around the ball. And also feel for defenders, when they're, trying to save goals and, they can't wear those long studs. But I always take about 2 or 3 pairs of boots, 2 molds and one long stop. So we get these long plastic stops. And if I feel like there's any sort of shifting underfoot, I'll shut the longs on just because I hate losing my feet, or like when I want to have a quick reaction around the ball to either win the ball or pressure, and if I slip, I don't love that. But yeah, I always love taking notice of what boots people wear. Like I remember as a kid, you guys did the same, but like I just remember what the best players all wore. I've always been a Nike man, but I remember when Juddy and Cousins had the Pumas on back in 06, and I think I had 1 year with the Pumas just because I wanted to be like Benny Cars and Chris Judd, and then it went back to the Nike. So I've been pretty lucky over the career with getting looked after by Nike. But it's it's funny what you pick up on when you're a kid and you watch all the best players play. But I'm not sure what you guys wear.
Yeah, I usually wear just the normal molds, but I'll take 2 or 3 pairs. I've got a couple of the pairs with the long stops. I reckon we got told, a couple of years ago that we weren't allowed to wear metal studs, and I think Fags mustn't have known. And I think a game last year, heaps of the boys were slipping over, and he was spraying us, and then he's like asking us to show him our boots, and no one had like metal studs, obviously, and he was like, "Why don't you guys have metal studs?" And then I think our footy manager had to explain to him, like, "Mate, it's they're not allowed." So he blew up about it. But yeah, it'd be good to wear them though, because sometimes the grounds are so slippery. Like that game the other week at the SCG where everyone was slipping over, that was wild. And I'm sure if they had studs in, it would have been able to help a bit. What about you, Tommy? What do you take? What do you wear?
Yeah, I just take the one pair, like the pair I wear, the Asics Testimonials. The mold studs are actually pretty good in size, and they do give you quite a bit of traction. So I normally just stick with the one pair. It's become consistent and pretty used to it. But you touched on, Rick, your favourite pair of all time. Do you have a favourite pair of boots of all time? Would it be Puma, Nike? If there was one pair of boots you had to pick, what would it be?
I actually like brighter colours just because I'm not that quick. So you'll never see me in a black pair of boots. Takes about 5Ks off the eye test, I reckon. I like a red or an orange sort of. My favourite's been the Phantom. I wear the Phantoms now, but I've sort of gone back and forward between the Tempo and the Phantoms. Just sometimes when they change boots, it can change the feel on your foot. But I've loved the Phantoms. There was an orange pair last year that I really, really love wearing. Always look good with the navy kit. But yeah, I've always been, even since I was a kid, I love bright boots just because I felt like it made you look quicker.
I might need to take a leaf out of that book.
Yeah, my draft year I wore Puma Kings, so I loved the Kings for a long time. And then the last few years, though, I've found the Future suits my foot, and be like you, Tommy, had a couple of issues with my feet the last couple of years, and found that the Future was the best for that. The King was like a little bit snug, which some people love, but for me, I needed a little bit more room in my boot, and the Puma Futures are pretty comfortable, so I've had them on for a couple of years now.
That's good. A few milestones as well, boys. Was just looking at some things over the weekend, so it might be worth shouting out a few players as we like to do. Locke, I might get you to talk about Libba and his 250th game and how highly you rate him at his craft and what he's so good at. And then Paddy, if you're happy to talk about Jeremy Cameron, he's kicked 700 goals now, which is pretty incredible in this day and age. So let's give those boys a bit of a pump up because some great achievements there.
Yeah, starting with Libba, he's a star. I love coming up against him, and I think we play him in a couple of weeks. So I tend to play on him a little bit. We find each other a fair bit at stoppage, and just his footwork to get that front position and hold you off is first class. And he's one of those guys that, despite his size, he's really hard to work under the ball, and his hands are so quick to react to the spill off the ruckman that he just sort of taps it to his own advantage. And then once he's got control of the ball, he's almost impossible to tackle when he's able to get a handball out to a teammate in their advantage so well. Like, one of the best I've ever seen, to be honest, in my time in the game. He's just tough. Even like sort of epitomises him, that chase that he did on Brad Hill a few weeks ago and ran him down. Like for a guy like him, you never think that he would do something like that, but just sort of shows his determination and tenacity, and the defensive side of the game he really values too, which I respect. He's a tackle machine and just a real competitor. So I'd love to play with him. I don't think that'll ever happen, but yeah, it's always a pleasure to go against him and see him up close and personal about how he goes about it.
Yeah, like Jezza, like kicked 700 goals in this day and age is pretty special. I reckon I don't reckon there's another player like him in the AFL. Like, he's obviously got a massive tank. He can play tall, but he's sort of like, he runs around like a sort of third tall as well. Gets up the ground, plays multiple positions, but he just kick goals in so many ways. Like, I feel like every week he'll have sort of 6 to 8 shots, and he just kicks one goal that you're just like, how do you kick that? But he seems like I don't know him that well, but he seems like such a funny guy. Like, he's some of his Instagram reels, like the day of a life. Like, if you haven't seen it, like, they are like genuine comedy. I find it so funny. I reckon he's a pisser, but he's special, mate. And I reckon he's got a lot left in the tank too. Like, I guess he'd be your boy's age, which would be 32. So, he's leading the Coleman this year by a landslide. So, yeah, he's a special talent. So, 700, like, you'd think he'd probably got another 3, 4, 5 years left in. So, it'd be pretty cool to see someone hit the 1,000 again. Like Buddy did a few years ago. So, I reckon that will be in the back of his mind.
Yeah, kicking 1,000 in today's game would be incredible. So hopefully he can do that, because when you do see the crowd run on the field, there's nothing like it. It's a pretty special part of our game. You both touched on craft there and different parts of the game. Obviously, Libba as a mid, Jezza as a forward. Paddy, talk to us a little bit about your programs you've created as well at Ball Magnets with your prehab program and your contested ball program that you can find on the Ball Magnets website, why you created them and how you think they could help aspiring athletes in those particular areas.
Yeah, well, the whole reason we got together was about, helping the next sort of generation, to get after their craft. So there's 2 7-day programs. The first one's like a body prehab. It's all about, keeping your body, which is your biggest asset, flexible, mobile, and basically prevent injuries. So there's a bit of DNS stuff, which is a bit of body movement stuff that myself and Tommy have done for a number of years now that I felt like could be beneficial for any young athlete that, wants to level up a bit. And then the second part was just a bit of contested ball and footwork stuff, which all of us, put a lot of time into, but basically how you control the ball with, one hand, opening up space, body positioning, get separation from your opponent. And one thing that's really underrated with the best players around the ball is their footwork and ability to get onto a loose ball. So try to develop a real basic 7-day fundamental course that anyone that, whether you're 5 or you're 30, you can sort of sign up and get something out of it. So hopefully, if people jump on, they get something out of it. And all we're trying to do is trying to help these young people get after it and chase their dreams like we have. So should be a bit of fun.
That's a good summary, Rick. So that's ballmagnets.com.au for anyone that's keen to train and play like Paddy. We'll be doing more programs over the break as well, boys, which is super exciting. I think that's all we've got time for today, though. So thanks again to Gatorade for allowing this show to happen and putting it all together. Boys, thanks for jumping on for episode 2. Looking forward to the remaining 6 episodes, and we'll chat to you both soon.
Cheers, lads.
Beautiful. Thanks, boys.